Joe, you know what is so funny? So in today's episode, we are talking about setting up your company tools and services. And these two chapters, when we were writing the book, really stick out to me because they're the ones that were like, no, let's do it this way. Oh, no, wait, let's do it this way. Oh, no, wait, let's do it this way. And it's just so funny that we're now talking about it in a podcast because it sticks out for me. And so I'm really excited to dive into it today. I'm going to pass the baton to you.
Okay.
And then so I'm so curious, like just your thought process, because we didn't really list in the book, we didn't really list a lot of the tools and services because they're always changing. We're going to
Right.
have supplemental stuff for that. So tell us your thought process.
Yeah, I'm not going to list any tools because there's too many. This would not be a sound bite. It would be a sound tome. We don't need that. But I do want to talk about just kind of the ways to think about it, because depending on what you're doing, there's a lot of different options. But the first thing is there's two ways of kind of offloading work from yourself. And one is to outsource, which we'll call services. And the other is to use tools to make things easier. And regardless of what you're going to do, whether you're going to take something, keep it for yourself, outsource it, or use a tool, you want to start by creating a procedure, like a process for doing it. I call them standard operating procedures, or SOPs. And that means just making a kind of step-by-step checklist kind of thing of this happens, this happens, this happens. Because whether you do it yourself, whether you give it to someone else, or whether you try to implement it inside of some software tool, that's going to be really helpful to working efficiently. So that's always a good place to start. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but we've never found a situation where that wasn't helpful.
No, never.
And just as an example, let's say the last episode we talked about onboarding, right? So your onboarding standard operating procedure might be something like send a welcome email, right? Set up a project folder for that customer, create an account for them in your accounting system, and then send them an invoice, right? Which might not be onboarding, but it can be very simple, but it still should be documented because it'll make it easier to go through that list, see what you're missing, and get a standard operating procedure that makes sense. So that's always step one. So from there, if the process isn't really right, don't try to automate it. Don't try to outsource it, because if you outsource it and train somebody on a process that doesn't quite work, it'll probably never get fixed until you go in and fix the mess. If you're trying to put it into some kind of software system, again, a broken process is almost worse in a software system because it won't even think to fix it. So try to make sure that you've got these down pat before you start to do it. With respect to outsourcing, we talk about solopreneurs, and I feel like there's a kind of a little bit of I won't call it an argument, but a disagreement in the world of solopreneurship, of the people that believe that you have to do everything yourself to be a solopreneur versus us who say you don't have employees, but you can outsource things to contractors, to companies, to people to do the things that aren't worth your time doing. But you want to outsource before you're desperate, because then it's harder to outsource it effectively. It's harder to train the people up effectively to what you need. So don't wait too long. As it starts to get, I wish I had more time, find that one thing, a couple of things that you can get somebody else to do for you, and you will find yourself much happier. Now, going on to tools, and I'm just talking away here, Carl. I don't know if you have anything to add, so I don't want to.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. Just like, I don't.
I cut you off if I need to.
So anyway, when you start talking about tools, right? And this is something that I am so guilty of, right? I want to find the coolest tool, right? I want to find the most awesome tool that's going to solve the problems I'm going to have in 5 years. And if you can find a tool that can bring you there, great. But sometimes it's good to start with simpler, right? So you want to identify the problems or the procedures that you want to automate, you want to fix, and stay away from the shiny object syndrome, right? You want to find one that just makes it easier. Obviously, affordability is usually a good thing especially when you're starting out as a solopreneur. So figure out what issue you're trying to solve. Make sure the tool is pretty easy to use, that you're not going to be banging against the wall. Check reviews and things. If you're dealing with other software, try to see if there's an integration. If there's any reason for those things to interact, it's nice to have a native integration. There's always that option of using, Zapier to do it. But that's, that's another expense. It's a little more complicated. And so then one of the cool things you can do is that if you can get a free trial and try it out with something you're trying to do and see if it works and you like the way it works, that's great, and sometimes they'll give you like a free month or a free couple of months, those kinds of things, even if it's just 7 days, get in. If you're going to do it, sign up for the 7 days and have the time allocated to go in and try it with something real so that you make sure that's the thing you want to start paying for. Start off monthly, right? If they have a discount of 2 free months, if you pay for a year, great. Once you know you want it, do that. But until then, pay monthly in case you say, you know what, this isn't cutting it, and you can walk away. You've only blown tens of dollars instead of hundreds of dollars. I guess the other thing now is that we cannot not talk about, right? Especially after being at Inbound last week, is AI, right? So AI is just get AI and have it do everything for you, said somebody somewhere, and it's not there yet, right? I mean, AI is fine. It's great. It's exciting. I use it all the time, but you have to be careful not to try to run with it too much until you're sure it's going to behave well. There's a lot of talk about agentic AI. That's AI not just giving you information or text or writing for you or critiquing your writing, but actually going out and doing things for you. This is going to be a game changer, but right now we are in September of 2025, and I would be careful with it. I don't think it's quite there yet. If it could be a real time waster, but it's something to keep an eye on because at some point it's going to be pretty amazing for helping you do routine and chores that you don't necessarily want to spend your time doing.
Did I clean my house yet?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. We don't have the robot. We don't have the robot with the AI to actually do any real work, but it will, but I mean, we've got the stuff that it can help with now. I mean, if you want to crank out an email, and you write the email, but you want it to be a little more, elegant, especially if you train up the AI with your writing style, you can create emails a lot faster. You give the skeleton, you makes it, then you edit it, and a very nice email can go out in, much less time. The idea of summarizing things is fantastic, right? So using email for, things like summarizing meetings, summarizing long, documents or whatever. I like using it for brainstorming, coming up with ideas. I'll give it a list of things that I think are good ideas, and it'll come back and go, yeah, what about these? And I'm like, yeah, some of them are dumb. A few of them are good. And it's really good for helping you create standard operating procedures if you've got rough notes. So that's one thing that you can do that can really help you with this whole process and using AI. So, AI is a helpful assistant at this point. I wouldn't personally be ready to, as I said, at this point in time, to let it run off and do work for me without supervision. You definitely want to keep an eye on it before it goes out into the world. That's kind of where I'm at on this, but
Perfect. And you can train your AI to not use M dashes or colons. So
when somebody tells me how,
what's
well,
funny?
there's two. Go ahead.
I haven't seen, so Delve used to be a giveaway and emojis. And I do think it started to simmer on Delve and emojis. Maybe just for me.
I created a GPT, and basically all it said was don't use M dashes. It still used M dashes. I had it write an Emily Dickinson poem, a poem in the style of Emily Dickinson, who's famous for using M dashes. 4 stanzas, 32 M dashes.
And I feel bad for the M dash because they were useful and can be useful, but they're just overdone now.
Yeah, what really bothers me is like I use a lot of colons and semicolons in my writing. I didn't use M dashes, so I think it's like 3 keys on the Mac, but I use a lot of colons and semicolons, and I'm hearing people say, "Oh, that's a dead giveaway that it's AI." I'm like, "No, it's me."
Yeah, I know. Anywho, well, Joe, thank you for all of that. I have nothing else to add. I think that was all very informative. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, leave that 5-star review. For real, we would so appreciate it. And we may even start shouting out your name. Share this episode with a friend and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And we will see you next time on the Aspiring Solopreneur.